First and foremost, I want to say a huge kudos and thank you to CEDAR. The CEDAR Center funded the Special Education Network Improvement Community, and they funded several other of our projects, but this in particular has the advantage of garnering support across the country. You'll see here on the slide all of the institutions that participate in the NIC. AACT had established network improvement science through a different NIC early on in the 2014-2015 era. And we became what we would consider experts in that area of improvement science and really wanted to facilitate additional NICs because we saw the advantage of beyond academic research where we have either randomized control trials or perhaps we're even doing single subject design. This is a way of lifting the boat across institutions with these very concrete cyclical and short horizon cycles of investigation. So it's 30, 60, 90 PDSA cycles, plan, do, study, act. And the research that we garner is in an effort to actually network across all of the institutions that are participating so that they can consider how to implement the work of others in their own programs. We launched the NIC in 2018, and the intention was to address the teacher shortage in special education. And we know that in some states, we don't have an actual shortage. What we have is a retention issue, that we're producing enough candidates, but we're not retaining enough candidates. This NIC isn't looking at retention in the field. It's specifically looking at entry into the profession and really establishing a strong interest around candidates to go into special education by virtue of perhaps going to community-based organizations or linking up with your public school system or looking at Para-to-Pro pipelines, et cetera. Initially, we had 10 institutions participating. There was an application process. I think we received 54, 55 applications. It's really difficult to narrow it down, but I can say that we did our best to identify folks across the country, differential based on not just geography, but also on demographics, what kind of students the institution was serving, the level and amount of faculty associated in the special education program, the ability to support some of the in-kind, but AACT and CEDAR through that grant was really going to support the majority of the work, and different types of institutions, R1s, teaching institutions, small privates, secular, parochial, et cetera. We actually received additional funding from CEDAR, and we were able to bring on learning fellows. So our first learning fellow is Appalachian State University, and the intention of learning fellows is to identify programs with smaller faculty sizes, but with passion and rigor and an intentionality around increasing their program, either by candidate pool or even by coursework. And so while we can't bring on 50 different institutions and support everybody, we did think that there was value in bringing faculty from smaller institutions to the table to continue learning across all of the other larger teams. So we have now 12 different institutions represented. You'll see them here. And we convene the institutions annually, face-to-face. We do a virtual convening as well, quarterly. And in those convenings, we use improvement science developed through Carnegie to address these plan, do, study, act cycles. And each of our institutions has a strategic goal, essentially, to reach a specific aim. Now, across all of the institutions, across the NIC, we aim to increase the amount of special education candidates into programs by 30%. Based on that, we have two, not just benchmarks, but requirements that those candidates be candidates of color at the 20% range. So you're increasing candidates of color 20% annually, and you're also increasing candidates with disabilities because we have a hunch, a hypothesis based on anecdotal evidence that many candidates with disabilities are going into the field of special education as opposed to other fields of education with intention. So we want to base some of that hypothesis in the NIC work and also just kind of figure out what does it mean for a kid with a disability to go into higher ed and why do they choose the disciplines they choose? So the aim here, while universal, it is being implemented in different ways through each institution. And some folks are, let's take BU, for example, Boston University is implementing a Para-to-Pro pipeline. It just so happens that in the Boston area, BPS has 750 plus paraprofessionals with bachelor's degrees, which is quite uncommon and really unfortunate that with a bachelor's degree, these folks are still at a paraprofessional level at a lower income range. Most, if not all, of the women in this program are women of color. So they are looking at a Para-to-Pro pipeline with BPS as a partner in the work. Cleveland State has a residency model that they're working on. Eastern Michigan is, I think, looking at funding and looking at community-based organizations to do some outreach. There are a slew of different strategies people are using to increase special education candidates into their programs. I am proud to say that while many people are reducing their budgets and really feeling the pinch of enrollment right now, amongst our NIC universities, no one has seen decreasing enrollments in special education programs. That's a huge, I think, celebration that we should have. I cannot say that there's a corollary to the NIC, but I can say, like, good, at least this holds true. So that's quite exciting. AECTE and Mersion collaborated to produce an agreement, an effort of goodwill to the field, so that we could reduce the burden financially amongst our member institutions in accessing and opting into Mersion programs. We created this collaborative agreement, and it essentially allows all of our members to have a reduced amount for private practice and small group instruction and small coaching circles. And that small coaching circle is actually based on Deborah Ball's work. So the teaching works, high leverage practice work. Charlotte Danielson's framework is a part of the coaching circles. So you actually get a Charlotte Danielson trained mentor facilitator in those coaching circles with your candidate. It's at a 50% discount, this offering for immersion access, plus 10% for members. So if you're a member of AACTE on the call and you're interested in working with immersion and looking at simulation to either address clinical practice where your candidates may not be getting in classrooms either as frequently or as iteratively as you would like, or perhaps you want to address observations because now we're seeing kids going into clinical field experiences but not getting access because of practicum hours and observation hours. So if that's something of interest, there are a variety of ways that you can use immersion. One way that we're trying to highlight the student, the candidate experience within AACTE, because I do think we have so many resources that students would actually benefit from, and you would benefit from putting them in your courses, is through our webinars. We have a video series on diversity, equity, inclusion, and we have webinars on demand. These webinars are open to anybody who's a member. They are all transcribed, and we are now starting a process by which we take the webinar after the fact, identify the portions that would be most beneficial for an administrator, for a faculty member, and for a candidate, a student of any discipline and course content. And we're highlighting the timestamp where people should be listening for specific objectives. And those are going out in our EPM, our Ed Prep Matters newsletter. And you can take a look at the webinars, and after the fact, there'll be a blog post about where you should probably take a look. We would love for you to send these webinars and the video series and other resources to your candidates to take a look at. They could be part of an assignment. It could be part of your in-class work. So that's one thing to mention. ACTE, I would say, prides itself on original research as well as elevating research of our members. So we consistently, every week, push out research that members are doing through the newsletter. So if you have research you want us to deliver to the folks or interest to your colleagues, please let our newsletter editor know, and I can always make that contact. Original research, we have 3 new issue briefs out. So of course, you're going to look at high demand teaching specialties because special ed is in that area, STEM, ELL, foreign language, and special education. And we highlight the fact that while special education has plateaued, the retention issue is really what's driving the shortage of special ed teachers in the field. But I would talk to your provost, your dean, your associate dean, or your financial aid center about the second issue brief on how education students pay for college. This one highlights the fact that it's differential based on race, how students are actually able to fund their academic pursuits. And we're looking at specifically, like my community, the Latinx community, essentially on the whole, the majority have second jobs, take part-time jobs or have full-time jobs and go to school at night or off cycle. Whereas the African American community we're seeing take more loans out. This in particular might be helpful for you when you're lobbying to get additional funding for your diverse groups of students coming into the field. Additionally, the TEACH grants and the Teacher Quality Partnership grants are 2 ways that we're seeing highly underutilized funding mechanisms that the federal government gives you. Now, TQPs, Teacher Quality Partnership grants, are through an actual grant review process, and you have to panel it, et cetera. But TEACH grants, it's free money. It comes no matter what. And the federal government has it out to be used. And we realize that only 16% of institutions are using them, and 2% of candidates have utilized them. 2%. It's around $4,000 annually. But I just want to push, if you are not a TEACH grant institution, you should become one. It's super simple and it's free money and it's evergreen.